Your Unit 5, Step 4 is your individual practical delivery assessment. You're assessed on this step by having to submit a recorded video of you delivering an individual program card to your client and then completing a session evaluation form after that delivery. So in theory, you have completed a consultation for your client for Unit 4. You have wrote them a program card for Unit 5, Step 1. We are now going to be delivering that program card to them in a one-on-one situation. When recording your practical delivery, the recordings do not need to be one continuous video, so there's nothing different to the previous video assessments that you've done. You can break the video into smaller recordings for each section, such as your introduction, your warm-ups, a video for each CV and resistance exercise, and then a cool-down. I will just say that if you're attending a CMS fitness courses workshop, that you will deliver this on your last day of the workshop, and you would need to bring a client to that workshop day. However, if you're not attending a workshop, then you ideally need to use the same clients that you've used in your consultation and who you've wrote your program card for. If that same client isn't available for whatever reason, then you can use a different person. You will just have to complete a PARQ and health commitment statement with them to make sure that they are fit and healthy to participate. And then B, you may need to amend and edit the program card according to their fitness level and ability. So please let your tutor know if you need to do that, as we will just need to confirm that you're doing the right steps. But very similar to your other assessments, you'll need to do an introduction, so meet and greet your client, verbally confirm their consent that they're being filmed, confirm health and safety, in particular fire exits and the meeting point, confirm the location of the first aider and or the first aid kit, verbally screen the clients to say that they are okay to exercise today, and then let them know what the session's going to include, e.g. a bit of a warm-up, going to a cardio, do some resistance training, finish with a cool-down. You could link that maybe to their goals. So if there's mention about weight loss, weight gain, wanting to get bigger, stronger, etc., then just explain how those exercises are being chosen for them. For all your exercises, you need to ensure you apply the acronym NASTY, as you would have done throughout all your other practical assessments. And again, try to include appropriate alternatives, regressions, and progressions while you're speaking to them. You don't need to demonstrate these alternatives, regressions, and progressions, otherwise you'll be there for a long time. But introduce the exercise that you've selected, and at some point, whether it's in your NASTY, it's in the rest periods, it's at the end of that exercise that you've done, you could say, no, an alternative is A, B, or C, just so they're aware of that. Ensure you explain the health benefits and the purpose. So again, try and link it to their goals and why you specifically want them to do that exercise. So you should be following the program card that you wrote for Unit 5, Step 1, so the individual program card. So you should then be delivering a warm-up, including a cardiovascular warm-up and a series of dynamic and static stretches. You need to deliver your main cardiovascular session. However, you should have planned for 20 minutes, as that is the recommended guidance. However, you will only need to deliver for 10 minutes, hopefully within that 10 minutes of your client being on the machine. So you will need to do your introduction and your NASTY once your client has actually exercised for 10 minutes. So we've seen evidence of you monitoring intensity, gathering feedback, building rapport, motivating, moving around, observing different angles, etc. Then we should be able to see that in 10 minutes. If you need to film a little bit more than that to make sure that you get all your evidence in, then film a little bit more. During your cardiovascular session, ensure you use a visual RPE scale to assess feedback. You can use heart rate monitors, you can use smartwatches, etc. But as a minimum, we would expect an RPE scale. For your main resistance session, for every exercise, you need to deliver at least two sets on every exercise. Reason being that in between the sets, it gives you an opportunity to give and get feedback on your client's technique, ask about the intensity. Does the weight need to be increased? Does it need to be decreased? Is there anything that you might want to re-demonstrate or get them to do and correct in those rest periods? Make sure you manage the rest periods. So if you've planned to have 45 seconds rest, make sure your client has 45 seconds rest. And then if required, reinforce technique, add or increase, decrease the weight, etc. Repeat that for every exercise that you have planned for. And then towards the end, as you go into cool down, you can record your cardiovascular cool down and your planned stretches. And in particular, that is an ideal time to get feedback from your client. So especially when they're sat on the bike or the cross trainer or they're walking on the treadmill, etc. Just ask them, what have they liked, what haven't they liked, what would they like to do more of next time, what would they like less of, and if any kind of feedback on yourself, communication skills wise, anything else they'd like to know. And it's a good opportunity for you to gather that feedback in genuine real life scenarios, but also for your assessment. Once you've completed the recording, that needs to be uploaded to your Dropbox or most probably Dropbox to submit that. And there is also then a evaluation worksheet. So once you've completed that assessment, sit down with your client. So you can include your client in this process, and we would recommend you include your client in this process, as you need to make sure you record their feedback. However, your client shouldn't be writing any of the answers. It is your assessment to complete. So question 1, how did you gather feedback from your client to review and evaluate your practice? Consider the communication skills used when gathering the information. So how did you gather feedback from your client? Hopefully you've done it throughout the program, whether you do it at the introduction about whether they're feeling okay, whether they've got any questions. You do it during every exercise, at the end of the exercise. You've done it at the end in part of the cool down. In terms of communication skills, it's, you think about your body language, think about open communication, think about being friendly. Go back and look at Unit 4 in the manual, should give you some insight. Question 2, give 2 examples of feedback provided by the client that you will use to review and evaluate for your practice. So that could be anything on, were you a bit quiet? Were you a bit unclear? Could you have been a little bit more explicit on how many reps they were doing? Could you have positioned yourself better? Whatever their feedback is about you and how you could maybe improve, that's what you need to be putting in there. Question 3, describe 4 ways in which your session structure, your selected exercises, and the equipment you used was safe and effective for meeting your client's needs. So if you're talking about session structure, that could be linking to making sure the program's balanced, making sure exercises were done in the correct sequence. You might have chose specific exercises according to their abilities, their needs. You might have set the equipment up to make sure they were safe. You might have done things like using clips to make sure plates weren't going to come off the bars. You may be in an appropriate position to spot. You tell us, what do you feel that you've done to make that session appropriately safe for your client? Because every client will be different. Are they beginner, intermediate, advanced, etc.? Question 4, describe 2 ways in which you will improve your session to meet your client's needs. So this is a good box for you. If there's anything that you feel that you've forgotten, that you didn't do, something that you should have done, and you remembered halfway through or you remembered at the end, then put it in here. Let us know that you're aware that you might have forgotten to clear up a dumbbell afterwards. Depending on the severity of where you've left the dumbbell and whether anything occurred, it might be a bit too late, but it's good for us to at least know. Or if nothing occurred, then maybe it's a way for you to show that you're aware of that health and safety issue and you won't do it again, for example. Question 5, describe 2 ways in which you will improve your choices of exercise and equipment to meet your client's needs. So hopefully they give you some feedback on what they liked, what they didn't like. You might have thought, I didn't really like the way that flowed. You might not have liked a particular exercise yourself, and you might want to justify moving that. Describe 2 ways in which your instruction skills were effective. So think about how you are instructing. Was it your nasty? Was it your demonstrations? Was it how you were moving, correcting, reinforcing, motivating? But also describe 2 ways in which your instructional skills could be improved. So what do you think you could be doing better? It could be the anatomy, it could be being more concise, it could be being more detailed, maybe less nervous, less rushed, etc. And then finally, question 8, describe 2 ways in which your communication was effective. Question 9, describe 2 ways in which you could improve your communication. And then towards the end, your assessor will mark the questions. So make sure you hit the minimum mark for each question. So in this example, we're asking you for 2 ways in which you can improve. If you're struggling, you only give us 1, then that may be fine. But if you only give us 1 mark for quite a lot of questions, then although you might be hitting the minimum requirement per question, you also need to make sure you hit the minimum mark as a total. So we would recommend that you try and maximize all of your questions to make sure that you also pass the total outcome there. Your assessor will then highlight whether it's a pass or refer and provide some additional feedback, whether it's written and or video feedback to give you that feedback.